Hello and welcome to TEDxDupreeParkTV. I'm Gina Carr. I'm your host today, and I am delighted that you could join us. Please let us know where you're coming from in the chat. Please just say, hello, I'm coming from wherever. I'm coming to you today from Orlando, Florida, which is what I call home. I'm looking out on a beautiful lake, and it's just a gorgeous day in Orlando, as it often is. So delighted that you guys are here. And we have a wonderful show for you today. Some brilliant people who are going to share their wisdom and talk to us about how they're seeding greatness, which is what we're all about at TEDx Dupree Park. We're about seeding greatness. That's the theme of our event. And it's a theme. We were going to be on a physical stage this year. It's our very first time doing this. And of course, with the pandemic and the lockdowns and such, we've moved to a virtual event, which is going to take place on December 5th and 6th at 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. each day. We're going to be bringing some brilliant minds to you, sharing fascinating thoughts. I know you'll really enjoy it. And you can get your tickets today at TEDxDupreePark.com. There's a button for tickets, and it'll take you right over. And we have an early bird special going on right now, so you can get your ticket. I think it's as low as $17. So just jump on over there and grab your tickets today. The whole reason that we have a TEDx Dupree Park is because of the efforts of one man, Steve Monahan, who had a vision for having this event, for bringing these brilliant minds to these brilliant ideas to the world. And so let me bring on Steve today, and I want to talk to you a little bit about the organization that you founded years ago that is the founding organization, the sponsoring organization for TEDx Dupree Park, your Green Pets America Charities. Steve, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, thanks for asking. I was a corporate exec, went through a strange time, difficult time. And after that, my life changed. I decided I was never going to go back to corporate again. And I started a nonprofit. And I had some difficulty. I didn't want to feel sorry for myself, and I wanted to focus on the future. And I felt the best way to heal my mind and body was to reach out and help others. And we know that really works. So many nonprofits have been started because of someone going through a difficulty. The Susan Comenon Fund, so many different ones that they've turned a difficulty into something good. So that's what we did. We started as a food pantry, a pet food pantry. I love animals. I found out that you could go and get food for people, but you could never get it for their pets. And when I was helping people, I found out that they were wind up, if they didn't have much money, they were getting Meals on Wheels, and they would actually give their food to their pets. So I didn't want that to happen. So we created a kind of a Meals on Wheels for pets. So we delivered pet food to trailer park, make sure that both were being fed. And then that morphed into a animal rescue. We rescued death row dogs with Kristen Butler, as you know. And actually, and I don't know if I ever told you, Gina, but you were the one that really got me into animal welfare. You used to do it at Century 21, and it was something just not in my consciousness. And that's why I said when my consciousness shifted, these things that were in the back just all of a sudden came to the forefront. So as I helped you with the knives over forks on vegan, you helped me with animal welfare. Kind of a nice deal there. So that's how we were, and then we started writing books, and now we just want to keep reaching more and more people. So that's how we came up with Green Pets, winding up supporting the TEDx, because we want to bring speakers from around the world that can not only talk about animal welfare, species extinction, but eating compassionately with, Colleen Patrick Boudreau. And we have on factory farming. So there's so much of this ties together. So that's about Green Pets and why It's odd that they're a sponsor of this, but that's where we see the vision for this. And, our theme is seeding greatness. And, we believe that there's an angel within us that just needs to be brought out, sometimes through difficulty. Hopefully that's what brought it out in me. I'm still got a lot of devil in me, but I'm trying to, move more towards the angel side. So that's what we do.
Love it, love it, love it. And I remember being part of I think it was the very first board meeting that you had for Meals for Pets, and to watching it evolve and to see all the success that you've had and all the animals that you've helped, all the organizations that you've helped. I haven't personally seen the people that you've helped, but I know there are many. So just wonderful things that you're doing. And I'm honored to know that that I helped you increase this awareness. Yeah, it was back then that we started talking about, we really don't need to be killing all these healthy, adoptable pets that are in animal shelters. And you guys do not dismiss that we are telling the truth, that there are healthy, adoptable pets that are killed every day in animal shelters funded by your tax dollars all around the world. And that's a big part of what brought us together, and our bond got so strong talking about that and thinking about ways that we could help with that. So that's a very good point. Well, we have some fascinating guests to bring on today, and so I'm eager to do that. Steve, did you have another story that you wanted to share with us, so before we get started?
Yeah, just quick. I've been thinking about, this COVID and the upcoming elections. And actually, I'm trying to bring humor into my life more. I'm kind of serious, and Ted is serious. So, forgive me, but this is kind of a serious thing again. But I just wanted to go back with the COVID and the struggles that we've had as TEDx. And all the TEDx groups across the world now, since last year, in 2019 of March, I filed for the license and we got it in August of last year. We have been pushing this rock, this boulder up a hill, and it just keeps rolling back. We thought we were going to have this in May, and we got almost to the top, and it rolled back when COVID came out. Then we thought we could do it in November, but it rolled back down. And now we are going to be doing it in 4 weeks, and it's going to stick. I mean, this is going to happen. We're scheduled to do one next year. We don't know what's going to happen with COVID, but I promise you this, after our event on December 5th and 6th, on the 7th, we're going to be right back rolling that rock, that boulder up a hill, because one way or another, we're going to make this live event happen. Being stoic, we've talked about, we can't control the COVID, but we can control how we react to it. And so we're going to react with just keep pushing. And that is the message of, in Greek's mythology, Sisyphus, hard to pronounce, but his fate was for his entire life to roll an immense boulder up a steep hill, only for it to roll back. And you would think that is one hell of a life, punishment, but it wasn't, because he had a goal, he had a purpose, and that was his purpose. He didn't know why, but that was his purpose. We all have a purpose. We don't necessarily know why, but it seems to be our fate to do it. And this TEDx is your fate, mine, Mike's, or this whole team to do this. And no matter how many times that boulder comes back at us, we're going to keep pushing it up. As I said, we can't control the COVID, but we can control two things: to never lose hope and to never quit. So as long as we never quit and we never lose hope, I'm pumped. I'm just going to keep doing this. And it's hard for nonprofits. I just want to take another second. We brought up Green Pets. It's hard for us because we're not getting any donations now. So, I'm buying food and shipping it out through Prime on Amazon. We haven't gotten any donations, any patrons, any ticket sales for this event because everything is stopped. But we can't stop. And that's the same for all the TED organizers across this globe. We are all struggling. It takes a lot of money to run this. And there's a lot of people volunteer. But it just, it's like everything. It just stopped. So despite everything stopping, we're still moving forward. But I have the hope that it'll break. Things will, always work. Even every difficulty, something good comes from it. So I just wanted to tie those 2 or 3 things together, trying to interweave it like you do a TED Talk. You have to put 5 or different things together, but there's a common thread. And that's the common thread through the whole thing. Hope, TED, and we need patrons and supporters, and we need people to just hang in there with us and help us too.
Well, we've certainly been through a lot, and your leadership has been most inspiring. Your optimism and your courage to just keep pushing on, keep pushing that boulder up. And so that's a terrific story to share with us today. And for those who haven't heard it before, it's a good one. You guys look it up. It's definitely a powerful message. Well, let's get right to bringing on some of our guests today. Steve, let me just move you off screen here a little bit, and let me tell you about our first guest. Gerald Griffith. He earned a degree in computer science from Strayer University. He was the president of VoiceOver City LLC for 8 years. And while he focused on the area of voiceover, his organization provided services in other speech-related fields, such as public speaking, presentation delivery, and personal pitch development. I like that. Personal pitch development. That's a good one. He has been the executive producer of the VoiceOver Atlanta Conference, which is the largest gathering of voiceover talent in the world. And currently, he provides live stream services to 1 Million Cups Cherokee, which is a bi-monthly gathering of business startups in and around Cherokee County, Georgia. And it's sponsored by the Cherokee County Office of Economic Development. He's also the creator of the Guide to 575. It's a portal which provides unique, focused business directory for anyone searching for commercial services in the 575 corridor, which is north from Cobb to North Cherokee. Those of you who are watching around the world, they're like, I don't know where that is. It's North Metro Atlanta, which is an area that I lived in many years and which is where our TEDx is based. So with that, let me bring on Gerald and have him tell us a little bit about what he's doing to seed greatness in the world. Gerald, so glad you could join us today, and I'm just excited about what you're doing. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about what has you excited today that you're seeding greatness in all these different ways?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, Gina. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And before I dive in, I do want to take a moment just to acknowledge something that Steve said, because I think it dovetails nicely into the inspiration behind starting the Guide to 575 project, which is, as you mentioned, executive producer for an event, and this would have been our 8th year. And so the big thing with that is that, there were people coming from 20 countries, and we had 2 hotels all booked out and everything. And on March 11th, I still remember it like it was yesterday, walking out of the second hotel meeting, feeling like everything was going well, only to turn on the radio and find out that COVID had officially been designated a pandemic. And at that very moment, everything just fell apart. So 14 days ahead of our event kickoff, everything I had been planning for the last year, my team and I and everything, all went away. And in addition to that, all of the other things related to live streaming and media, like working with schools and track and field events and cross-country events, all went away. So imagine just at the beginning of the year to have your entire calendar wiped clean. It's a crazy feeling, but you get up the next morning and you have to make a conscious decision to be okay with the unknown, and it's not something that you can just wipe away. It's not something you can pretend isn't there, but you have to find some contentment in just being in that moment. And, the good thing is that if you can wake up and you can get out of bed on your own, then you can do something, some way to try to have a positive impact on things that immediately available to you, the people you can touch, family around you, just your own community. And what I realized was I had a great relationship, and I still do, with people all around the globe, having built up my event. But I didn't know as much about the local area, even though I lived here for 10 years. I could walk around and very few people would know who I am. And so the COVID situation was a big wake-up call about the importance of building relationship, an understanding, and an appreciation for where you live and the area around you. And so that's where the whole thing started with, okay, what can I do locally so that everything isn't spread around the world? Because it's great that you were interacting with 20 countries, but guess what? Nobody's traveling anymore. So how do I make something local that can impact the daily life, the business life of people in the local community? And so that's where the idea of the Guide to 575 got started.
I like that, because that's, Gerald, kind of I wouldn't say a lesson, but something really hit me is the local. And as I said, I was in corporate for many years and with Deutsche Bank and ITT, and we used to finance businesses. There was actually mom and pop businesses. I mean, you won't know this, but where you can buy everything under one roof, let's say in Best Buy. Well, there was a guy that owned an air conditioning store, and there was a guy that owned a TV store, and there was the guy that owned this, and a woman that owned that. And one by one, they started being gobbled up like Google, and the downtowns, the small businesses shrunk. Prices got better for people, but all those businesses went away. And then when COVID hit, we just saw how important they were to us as human beings to be able to be with one another, and how important they are to our economy. And so it just hit me as, my God, we really do need to get back local. And, the supply chain moving away, we saw the downfall of that. So I'm hoping the local will come back, just like we're going to have a respect for the healthcare workers, for the people cleaning the garbage, all these things that was taken for granted. Right. We now know that the individual is the one that does it. And that will hopefully be one of the good things that comes from this. So how do you think we can help the local people? And through awareness, what you're doing with your podcast, through what you're doing with, the I-575 corridor, what are things you're going to want to do to really emphasize how important local is?
Well, I think in large part, it's not too much different than what you're doing here, which is to give the opportunity for people to get in front of other people, because there's so much that happens, what I'll call beyond the tree line. And what I mean when I say beyond the tree line is that it's easy to go up and down the 575 corridor here during most of the year, and there are trees, and now there are walls, and we come and we go, and we come and we go, and we don't oftentimes realize that just beyond the tree line, there's industry. Just beyond the tree line, there's business, there's small business, there's bigger business, there's everything in between. There are communities there. And so one of the byproducts of the entire COVID situation is I think it's forced us to look at what's around us a lot more, because there are people who, like me, you get so busy thinking broadly, nationally or internationally, that you forget that at the end of the day, you get your groceries at a local market. You get certain things. My kids go to a local school. There are things that are just very tangible, real things that happen that affect us on a daily life and a daily basis, rather. And there are people that are in our community. And one of the things I stress a lot when I get a chance to talk to small business owners is there's this tendency now to think that, well, I'll go into Facebook and I'll do social media and I'll market all over the place. And I'm like, well, that's great. That's fine. But you know what? No one's going to travel from Washington State to get a pizza at the local place. No one's going to travel from Florida to get dry cleaning done at the local place. So one of the things I hope the Guide to 575 does is have people understand that we are a community and it's important to understand what's happening in that community. It's not just meant to be a website. There'll later on be a print edition of it, and there'll be some additional media sources, whether that's a type of radio or television or something like that. But I want people to feel like they don't have to go filter through all the noise on YouTube and Facebook to find out what's happening in their community. I want there to be avenues for schools. I want there to be avenues for nonprofit organizations to just go in and know that when people go there, when you go to Guide to 575, it's about things that affect, impact, and are available to you in your community.
Gerald, what you're saying, it resonates with me so dramatically. And certainly what Gina referred to a little bit earlier, for those that are not in the North Georgia area, they really have no idea what we're talking about beyond the tree line. And I love that particular phrase that you use, because most of 575 is guarded by walls and trees all up and down. And there are vast services, businesses, nonprofits, people beyond that tree line. And I'm so in love with what you're trying to do. And I got to hear you present at Million Cups Cherokee a few weeks ago and was so enchanted with your presentation. Wanted to get you on TEDxDupreePark TV. Tell me, how is the initiative progressing? Is it meeting your objectives? Are people lining up? And how are you reaching folks to let them know what your creativity desire is?
Well, I think that it's a challenge because certainly there are a lot of media outlets available to everyone, and whether it's social media or different things like that. So, you know, I thought it was going to be something. I'll use the example of trees a lot. I thought it was going to be like a pine tree. You know, you put in some effort, it grows up pretty fast. But it's actually more like an oak tree, where it's like, hey, you're going to start small and you're probably going to be small for a while. But I think for me, a lot of it is just take the step. Mm-hmm. Take the step. You don't know what the next step is sometimes until you take the first one, because the perspective of what you see when you take that first step will greatly influence your decisions sometimes about taking the second one. And so I stress that a lot of times. And you know, I just continue to get up every day and say, what can I do today to move the ball just a little bit forward? And I believe in this notion of what I call, do you actually leave space for success? Mm-hmm. And, you know, sometimes people get it and sometimes they don't. But I often ask small business owners, in your planning process, do you actually leave room for success? And what that means, an example would be, I'm going to do a mailer, you know. Let's say I decide to send out 1,000 mailers. Have I actually thought about what is necessary to service even a fraction of that? You know, maybe I only assume that 10 people might respond, you know. Mm-hmm. Well, what happens if 250 people responded? Have I even thought about it? And it doesn't mean you need to run out and build the infrastructure, but it means that you need to leave room for success. Mm-hmm. An example would be, think about it. Zoom had 10 million subscribers at the close of last year. 10 million. Today, they have over 300 million subscribers. Now, granted, that is an extreme case, obviously driven by a completely unforeseeable thing. But imagine if they had no idea how to scale. They couldn't find the people. They couldn't do anything. And so when I talk to small business owners a lot, I bring that up because I say, you know, if you go to a Shark Tank or you did a TEDx pitch, what happens when someone actually walks up to you and say, I love your idea. How much money do you need? Mm-hmm. You've never thought about what it means to build a commercial kitchen or work out of one. You've never thought about what it meant to to deal with a media outlet where all of a sudden you've got 50,000 people watching you monthly instead of your mom and four brothers, you know. So you have to give some thought and some room for the idea that what you do, if you truly believe in what you do, leave room for it to succeed, and give some thought to what would happen if it does.
I love that philosophy. That's just so good. Leaving room for success. Yes. Consciously schedule it in. That sounds like a good thing to do. I schedule in time for meditation each day. I won't say that I get it done, but I do plan for it. So that's my goal. Oh, boys, it's been a pleasure to meet you, Gerald, and I love your guide to 575. You may not be aware, I started years ago with the Town Laker, which is now known as, I think, Around Town or Roundabout magazines. Yeah, so similarly, the need to get the word out about what the local businesses are doing, and this was well, it wasn't pre-internet, but it was pre-widespread internet, and definitely pre-social media. So those were not out there, and it served a need. So I love your guide to 575. So what else? As we let you go here today, get back to helping local businesses and helping all these people with voiceover work. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us today?
Well, I'd like to just encourage people to go check out the guide to 575.com site. If you're a small business owner, there are free accounts in there. There's no pressure to make you buy a bunch of anything or anything like that. I really do want it to be a resource. I figure, once it's up and growing, the business side takes care of itself if I'm delivering the value. And that's always how I approach it, is I want to make sure that it is truly something of use to you, not simply something where I'm expecting something and not delivering. So go check it out. If you know of a business, encourage them to go check it out as well. We actually have started doing more podcast interviews and things like that, where we showcase businesses. And so we're looking for more people to be a part of that. And so if someone's interested, they can sign up for that as well.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I'm eager to learn more about that as well. All right. Thank you so much, Gerald. You shared a lot of wisdom with us today, and we look forward to seeing you around our TEDx community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gina. Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
I love our shows every Friday. I get to meet so many cool, wonderful, interesting people. I hope that you guys are enjoying watching our show. If you are, please share, like, comment, share. That's a great way to help us get the word out. And hop on over to TEDxDupreePark.com and get a ticket or buy some of our bling. We have some cool bling. I just got my latest TEDx Dupree Park coffee mug here, and I have a little journal. I haven't even opened it yet, but I'm so excited about all these things. We have shirts, and things are getting a little colder there in a lot of areas. So we have hooded little coats and those sorts of things. So all kinds of things for you. I think we have a few things for your pets too. So hop on over to TEDxDupreePark.com and you can get in all the fun and get the TEDx spirit in your mind of seeding greatness. So to help us continue with seeding greatness, we're going to bring on our next guest. This is Dr. Debra Lindh, and she's an Amazon bestselling author, an award-winning scholar. She's a practitioner and founder of global Twitter chat PTSD and Beyond, and the podcast PTSD and Beyond, which were both launched to provide advocacy, support, and resources, as well as hope, inspiration, education, empowerment, and growth to everyone affected by and with post-traumatic stress disorder. I am eager to learn more about what Dr. Deb has done and why she has started her organization. Dr. Deb, welcome aboard so much. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Gina. Thanks for having me on.
Yes. Well, tell us a little bit about why you started PTSD and Beyond, how this came into being. I'm really eager to hear your story.
You know, the story really first started with my own journey of post-traumatic stress. And previously I was working in business consulting, but when you're going through the journey of healing and you're peeling back all those different layers, you start talking to other people because everybody's got a story to share. And while I was going through my journey, I thought to myself, you know what? I'm not the only person that's having this challenge. I'm not the only person that's looking for a resource where I could go and call it the Cheers effect. So you show up every week, right? And whether you're listening to the podcast on Friday or showing up to the chat every Monday at 8 o'clock on Twitter, but it's a place where we could go and we could have education. So education from practitioners, education from people with lived experience, and education from peer support. So I was really having a hard time finding this. And as a mom, you always look at kids programs. And one of the things that I've learned about kids programs is, you know, if you can see it and you find a need, you fill the need. You fill the need with your vision. So I created PTSD and Beyond for my vision of providing a place, a safe place that was a great environment for people where we're all learning from one another, safe in the sense of we're love and we're providing kindness and compassion as well as support for others. So that's a little bit of the snippet behind of the why and the how PTSD and Beyond, both the Twitter chat and then also the podcast got started.
Hey, tell me, how are you doing that? How are you delivering this? I mean, how are you connecting? Are you, is it one-on-one through Zooms, or is it coaching that you do, or how it's so important? And also, I don't understand, who is your audience? Who are the ones? When I hear of PTSD, I think automatically of the military. But we know it's so much broader than that. So who is your audience and how you deliver this?
Excellent question. So the audience is multifaceted. So one of the things that we've learned about PTSD is that our stories and our details might look different, but our symptoms are very similar. So someone, say in law enforcement, their story and their details might look different to someone such as myself with child abuse, but what gives us the unity is the experience and the symptoms of, say, anxiety or difficulty with sleeping, or the types of triggers that we experience. So what unites us as folks, so our audience is people that are affected by, as well as living with post-traumatic stress. So affected by could be, say, someone's spouse, it could be someone's, best friend, is someone within our community, coworkers, companies. So it's anybody who is experiencing and or affected by post-traumatic stress. Again, we're unified by the post-traumatic stress versus the details of the difference. As far as delivery goes, it's an excellent question. So PTSD and Beyond, we provide a few different types of services. Most are volunteer. So for example, we provide the education resource on Twitter every Monday at 8 o'clock. So folks can use the hashtag PTSD and Beyond and they can follow along. We also have all of our previous chats on Wakelet, so people can see the history and the summary and learn about what were the different topics that we covered, for example. We have themes for each week, as well as that tie-in throughout the week. So there's an education piece, a support piece by peer support, as well as what we call lived experience. So we're all wounded healers, and we provide that understanding and that safe place to others. Now, you asked also about, do we do one-on-one? So PTSD and Beyond, we provide services to all types of organizations, whether it's a for-profit organization, a nonprofit organization, a group such as an association. And yes, we also do provide services one-on-one. One of the things that we have found to be very valuable is when we get together in groups, that dynamic of the sharing of the stories and the experiences. Because what happens often is there's folks that will sit by the sidelines because it's very vulnerable as it is to come forward and say, you know what, I need some help here. And I'm showing up. The biggest step is to show up. That's the biggest step. The second step is the awareness of, you know what, in addition to showing up, I want to do something about it. Where can I go? So PTSD and Beyond provides that platform and that space where people can say, you know what, I just want to listen. And then oftentimes what happens, because we do offer mentorship with our peer support, is someone will say, you know what, I felt like that too. And we all have our own stories and our own journey, because what I have found is that there is a Dorothy as well as a Rocky in every one of us. And it's a homecoming of peeling off the layers of the things that we've carried along all these years that prevent us from having that life that we knew and that life that we know. So Dorothy, the Dorothy moment, I have choices. And where can I go? And many people that come to us will say, you know what, I'm really having a difficult time with finding a therapist, or I don't want to go the therapy route because we know that the tools of yesteryear aren't working. I mean, I have that experience, and many other the folks that volunteer, like Mark Grusbeck, Meg Smith, Mary G, they all share, Ahmed, they all share that same commonality of there's another way to do this. There's another way, and how can I? So with Dorothy, we have different choices. And the one thing that we can do is we can help each other with identifying what is a choice and a decision for each individual, because everybody's journey is their own path to walk. And we meet people with where they're at. And like Dorothy, clicking the heels 3 times, all she wanted to do was go home. And when people start finding these little nuggets of successes and when we have setbacks, that there's somebody to hold us up and hold our hand and say, you're not alone, and we are stronger together. And when they feel it, one of the biggest things is we know this information. What makes it different about PTSD and beyond is people, in addition to experiencing it, they feel it. They feel it. And when they feel it, then they can move forward, and those layers are peeled off. The baggage is given to other people where it belongs to, and they remember who they are. And everybody has that Rocky moment where you're standing there in Philly and your hands are up in the air and you're shouting to yourself, yes, I did it. Because we move from being a survivor of post-traumatic stress to being a warrior. And after we move from a warrior, we become a wounded healer and we mentor other people. And then what's left over is our legacy, because we are cycle breakers and we're legacy builders. And legacy can mean whether my children have a clean slate, or my best friend's children have a clean slate, or maybe somebody like today, I got an email from a gal that I haven't talked to her in 2 years. And yet she's coming back to say, Dr. Deb, I've got this situation right now, and can you help me with this roller coaster? Because life isn't linear. Life isn't linear. It's like that movie with Steve Martin where he's on the roller coaster and his wife is like laughing because, oh my gosh, we're going up here. And he's holding on and he's terrified. But what makes the fear okay is when you have a safe space and when you have people that meet you with where you're at, that show you love and kindness, because at the end of the day, love is the antidote to pain and suffering. And that's what we're trying to work through, is the pain and suffering.
Well, I got to say, there were so many marvelous metaphors and descriptors in that wonderful soliloquy you gave. It was very empowering to me. One of the things that I really like is many times we have different circumstances, but the same symptoms. And I will say, one of the things that resonated with me, I can't say that I've had PTSD, but I can certainly tell I've had dark times in my life. And when I have felt at my lowest is when I felt the most alone.
Mm-hmm.
And how generous and necessary connection and community can be. One question I have for you is, how is your organization funded? Is it a nonprofit? Is this a money-making enterprise for you? I gather this is mostly an enterprise out of love and caring. But tell us a little bit how we can help, how others can help.
There's 2 ways that people can help us. So everything that's purchased off the website. So if people are interested about swag, we've got swag and gear. And every purchase that is made on the drdeblindh.com website, you can click on shop and it takes you right to swag and gear. Every purchase that's there goes funneled right back into the organization to provide these free services. Now, with organizations that have us come in, sometimes organizations will have us come in for 2-day workshops.
Mm-hmm.
I also do keynotes. I've got a keynote with an association coming up next month.
Mm-hmm.
There are other organizations that will have us come in for a week at a time, because we're doing different types of services. Like, for example, doing onboarding with new hires, and they want right away folks to get involved with stress management and looking at what trauma is involved in. Because right now with COVID, trauma is, because of COVID, most people have experienced some sort of trauma, whether it's secondary trauma because you're, say, a social worker and or a doctor, a medical doctor, nurse practitioner, a EMT, person that's a police officer in law enforcement. There's secondary trauma there. So there's many different versions of trauma, but trauma is trauma. So even organizations are having us come in. We do all different kinds of workshops. We've got standard workshops. We also have things, meaning that are customized, because organizations sometimes say, well, you know what, we want to have it, geared, for example, next month is a group of moms that are business women owners, but they're mothers, and they're trying to juggle, COVID and distance learning and their stress level, and how do they work all of this. So to answer your question, people can go on also to Ko-Fi, and they can buy me a cup of coffee. Well, I'm not drinking coffee anymore. They can certainly buy me a cup of coffee. But like I said, all of the funds that are generated through our swag and gear, as well as Ko-Fi, get funneled right back into the organization. Because one of the things I want people to understand is that PTSD and Beyond, we're 24/7, 365. We do not close. We have folks that are in the UK, in Ireland, in Australia, in Canada, all over the world. So when somebody needs assistance and they go to that DM or even post, whether it's using the hashtag or right on the Twitter site, there is somebody who is going to answer. There is always somebody who is awake. And you know what? If I'm awake, like I say, people know this, if I'm awake and my phone rings, I answer. Unless for some reason, I'm doing something with my kids and I just can't get to the phone right now. But there is always somebody. So PTSD and Beyond is 24/7, 365. This for anybody around the world.
That was going to be my next follow-up question, is how large is your community? And you answered that. Kudos to you. God bless you, and those that work with you, that help all of us to one degree or another, because this is certainly in the age of COVID, more critical and more on the surface of people's thinking. So well done. And I'm really glad that we've had this opportunity to meet and chat a bit.
Thank you. And PTSD and Beyond, the podcast, is in 54 countries. So when those numbers come and our team is talking, because we're all, volunteering doing this, when our team is talking, we're getting together, we talk about these numbers. The one thing that is beautiful about our organization is that we look at these numbers as people. So each one of those numbers represents an individual. The podcast is in 54 different countries. The PTSD and Beyond Twitter chat, there's a fluctuation of where we rank. We ranked, number 9 out of all chats on Monday. Again, we look at these numbers and we just say to ourselves, each one of these numbers represents a person. Wow. And that's what this is about. It's not about me and my story. It is about the person that is saying, I want the assistance. I don't want this to go on my medical record. I don't have a clinical diagnosis, or maybe I do have a clinical diagnosis. And for also, and I mentioned the cheers effect, is when you're with somebody that you really like how you feel when you're with them. When I'm looking at this camera, I'm talking to the person who's looking right at me. And I don't know some of these people. And I hope to get to know them. But one thing that I can tell you is that people know how they feel. And they know when they feel good. And they know when they're going through something dark. If there's really somebody that's there that really cares. And that's the difference. Everybody needs someone like that. And right now with COVID, we're not able to be with the people who we do love and we care about because we have travel restrictions. So where can I go? And again, we believe that we provide that place where, somebody knows your name, somebody knows you, and somebody cares.
Love it. Well, it's such powerful work that you're doing, and you're helping so many people. And I just am so encouraged that you're out there. And so you guys, PTSD and Beyond, it's the hashtag to take a look at. And your website, Dr. Deb Lindh with an H.com. So you can find out all about the great work she's doing, how she can help you, how she can help your organization, and she and her team. You have a team that's helping you with all of this, right? It looks like you're doing so much work. There must be a whole powerhouse behind you.
There's a lot of support. I'm very, very blessed and very grateful. We've got a great group of people. And the other thing that's so beautiful is that there are people all the time that are saying, hey, you know what, how can I help with this? And what can I do here? And I want to go ahead and post different things. And so there are all kinds of people who are always asking, what can I do to help? And what can I do to just, make this easy? It's technology. I have to say there are things about technology that, make the anxiety go a little bit up, and grateful enough that there's always somebody who will step in and say, you know what, I know exactly how to do this. Shout out to Skycap for that, because he's a big tech person behind the scenes for us.
Excellent. Very good. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Deb. Pleasure to meet you, and look forward to following your work and getting to know you better, all the different things that you're doing.
Thank you.
Well, let's keep things moving along here. We've talked about some interesting concepts, and I think we've already seen a little bit of magic and thought about some magical concepts. Certainly, Dr. Deb was talking about Dorothy and Rocky, and there's certainly a lot of magic that goes on in those shows. I just happened to have watched the movie on Judy Garland this past weekend. It's called Judy, and really interesting movie, and it's very moving. So especially knowing that she started out as Dorothy, that really brought her to fame, and then the rest, the different things that happened in her life. So I encourage you guys, if you are looking for a good movie pick for this weekend, Judy is certainly a good one to check into. Well, our next guest is a former management consultant turned professional speaker and corporate entertainer. His unusual combination of business and show business has taken him from Hollywood Magic Castle to the London Palladium and to thousands of other meetings, conferences, and events across 6 continents. He has been seen on Good Morning America, Nightline, CNN Headline News, CNN Chile, and other national and international telecasts. In April, he launched a virtual show using Zoom as an interactive magic theater, and he has entertained audiences from the US, Canada, the UK, and Europe. And in May, his online show was recommended by the New York Times Arts and Culture section. So I'd like you to welcome to our TEDxDupreeParkTV stage, Joe M. Turner. Joe, come on board. Well, you could come on board better if I pressed the right button. Exactly. Okay.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Gina. Hi, Mike. Nice to see y'all today.
I was just
Always
thinking
a
that with
pleasure.
your ability to do magic, that you could just click your fingers or click those slippers together, and you just show up.
I'm at your service.
Well, we're so glad that you're here. So, Joe, I have actually been, let me see, I'm having a little bit of technical difficulty today. Let's see if I can turn that one off and turn the right ones on. There we go. Okay, so I was in your virtual audience a few months back with you doing your magic. I thought, let's see what this is all about. Tell us how that has worked for you and how you've been able to convert your show, what you used to do in person, to the virtual stage. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing there.
Well, to boil it down, you said I come from a management consulting background. I have a rather eclectic set of experiences, and I studied physics. I was going to be a physics teacher, and then I worked in the musical theater for a while. And then I went into management consulting, which is its own kind of song and dance, I guess. And then 20 years ago, I went full-time into the speaking and performing realm, doing magic for entertainment. Entertaining mostly corporate groups with sleight of hand. And over the years, how it is with all of us, our other experiences come into what we do, and they inform the decisions we make and the way we talk about it. And I started using magic not just to entertain, but also to speak to organizations and companies about how creating magical experiences on a stage can be a parallel for the way they do business for their own groups. So that's how I became a speaker and performer, primarily in the corporate world, sometimes on cruise ships. And that's where we get to answer your question. Is in the early part of February, I was on a ship in the South China Sea when the ports started closing around us, and we had no place to go and all day to get there. And finally, we ended up in Singapore. And I got off and got on a plane and came home. And that was about a month before everything started shutting down here in the United States. So I had a little bit of a head start on what it was going to feel like for everyone. And it was like what Gerald said earlier. One day, late March, you wake up and your whole calendar for the year has sort of emptied out. And you figure out, well, what do I do? What is the path to even take? And I thought to myself that if I was going to have the credibility to get back on a platform in front of an organization or a company in the future and talk about creativity and persistence and innovation and resiliency and leadership, then I couldn't very well just sit there and do nothing. So I went to some Zoom meetings and realized that the box that we're in, this video conferencing world, had an application to performance as well as speaking and teaching. And so I launched my show, kind of figured it out as I went, learned new skills about light and sound and technology. So these are the opportunities that have been available to all of us this year to grow in ways we didn't expect and develop skills that we'll be able to use in the future. And yeah, it paid off. I started populating Facebook and Eventbrite and other platforms with the fact that I was doing these shows. And the New York Times saw me and included me in a story about magic and performance in the virtual space during COVID. And then a couple weeks later, I got a surprise recommendation in the Sunday Times at the end of May. And it's just been a way to continue taking magic and the experience of theater into this different kind of medium.
That's interesting. And, I like, just like we're doing here on this show, we've adapted very quickly. Gina's a genius at this. I mean, she teaches it, so it comes natural. But, the world goes on. And so, you move on. Let me ask you this. I'm just intrigued by magic. I tried it a couple times and I found out I didn't have the patience for it. But, it used to be a long time ago, the magicians were like the scientists at that time. They were the wizards. They knew things that others didn't know. So they knew how to take something and make it look magical. But there was really a science behind it. They were figuring it out. So how do you, as a magician, use all the skills you've got? And you're a very smart guy. So how do you use that to interweave, to educate? I mean, there's something behind what you're trying to do with the magic. Tell us about that.
Well, as I became more involved in performing, my clients realized that I had a background in the corporate world, and they started asking me to put their message into the magic, to set the table for a discussion they were going to have at this leadership conference or this sales meeting or whatever. And that's when it really started to sink into me that I had come from the theater, and theater is all about telling stories and communicating great, important principles of human existence. And I try not to make all of my presentations that heavy, but the idea is simply to take the experience that you have and see what lessons you can draw out of it or what lessons you can attach to it. And magic is powerful for that because it's automatically a pattern interrupt. Magic is that moment when the world stops working the way you expect. And that's when a lot of people's defenses go down. They perk up and will start paying attention because of that. So it's a very powerful way to deliver a message. I'll give you an example just really quickly. I've got a dollar bill here. This is just the United States with George Washington on the face and an eagle and a pyramid on the back. And this is legal tender. You could spend it. And all of us have seen it and all of us have it. But I was thinking about what Dr. Deb was saying earlier about people who have interesting, maybe different circumstances, but similar symptoms. And all of us can sort of feel like that when we're under stress, that we've got all the pieces, but they aren't aligned in a way that's useful and productive and helpful. And so that's one of the things that magic and things like the great TED Talk and TEDx experience allows people to take some things they may already know, but put them together and align them in a different way. And that alignment is what helps it to become valuable in their lives. And so that's just a little example of taking something small, but how a small magical moment can help to crystallize a concept because you get to see it and experience it.
Joe, I've had the pleasure of seeing you not only in person doing your act, but actually do one of your business-related workshops. And I found them, I hate to use the term magical, but they were magical because you found a way, just like you did right there, to take something extraordinary and relate it to the ordinary, something that we all can relate to, something that we all go through. And I just want to commend you and how much I admire how you have risen up to the challenge. And so many people in your particular genre field, performance entertainers, speakers, have had to find a new way to get your message out. I may be wrong, but I think you're on every Saturday or Sunday morning doing singing and piano as well. And I got to tell you, I appreciate you and what you have done to help all of us move through this with a little bit of flair and a little bit of fun.
Well, Mike, thank you. I do, as I said, I have a musical theater background, so I love to go in that room right over there and sit at the piano and just live stream old show tunes or sacred music on Sundays. And I haven't done it in the last couple of weeks, but I'll be back there. I was doing it very regularly when we were more locked down. But to your point, I think it's really important. I mean, the artist is driven, is compelled to communicate something about who they are and how they see the world. And all we have to do that with is the talents or the gifts that we have. And I have some interesting ones. There's, it's a little unusual to, find the card that someone's thinking of or something like that. But I really think we all do. We all have those gifts. We all have talents of our own. When you come to TEDx Dupree Park, you'll see speakers who all have their own greatness, their own special way of seeing things. And I just feel like that's what we're called to do, is contribute those things that we do into the world. And if we have to do it through a camera or if we get to do it in person, the artist is compelled to put out the art. And that's how I feel about it.
Well, I so enjoyed your show, and I know you guys will too. And you're planning on continuing to do these for a while, right?
Yes, I have the paid sort of ticketed event that the New York Times recommended. So I've got another one of those coming up on November 15th. I just was booked by the Magic Castle in Los Angeles, where I've performed many times in the past. I'll be hosting and performing on a virtual show for them in November. I'm using what I do charitably to raise money for a charity water that provides clean drinking water to people in developing countries. I'm donating a show to raise money for them. There's different ways that we can each use what it is that we have and what it is that we do to put out greatness into the world.
Exactly. Seeding that greatness, and charity water is such a great cause. We take it so for granted, those of us who live in the United States, that oh, well, don't you have clean drinking water, which is so essential for human life, but a lot of people don't. So that's a great cause. Thank you for helping with that. And how wonderful to be booked by organizations and doing this virtual MC work and not even having to get on a plane. Isn't that cool?
I look forward to seeing all my friends at Delta again when it happens. But in the meantime, it's great to be able to do it from here in my office.
Well, wonderful. Well, let's see. So if people want to get in touch with you and find out how you can help them or their organization, or as you said, you do MC work for the different events, virtual events. A lot of people need that. You guys, you may not think that you need a good MC for your virtual event, but you do. You need somebody making sure everything flows smoothly and bringing the energy up. And that's just such a critical skill. And I know you do that so well, Joe.
Well, as do you, Gina. I've seen you in action many times.
Well, and we look forward to seeing you on our TEDx virtual stage on December 5th and 6th. And you guys, you're going to want to see more of what Joe's going to do. He's going to bring some real magic to our stage. Go over to TEDxDupreePark.com and get your tickets today. We have a limited number of tickets, and it's early bird rates. So jump on over there. Joe, before we let you go, anything else you'd like to share with us?
Two quick things. Number one, National Magic Week starts this Sunday. It ends on Halloween, and magicians around the country will be delivering charitable shows. Mine happens to be for Charity Water, but keep an eye out or just Google National Magic Week and you'll find out some free things that you can enjoy. And then finally, I just want to close by saying the great thing about magic is that it teaches us that things don't have to be possible in order to be experienced. So stop using the fact that something is impossible as an excuse.
Oh, Wonderful parting words. Thank you so much, Joe. Really appreciate you joining us today and look forward to seeing you around and seeing you on our TEDx stage in December. Thanks so much. Well, let me bring my colleagues Steve and Mike back on here as we wrap up today. Steve, I think this is the first show where you've had your beautiful TEDx in the background there.
Yeah.
We've seen it in some other meetings, but take a look there. How cool is that?
Yeah, I have brought TED into my home and put the sales hat on. You can bring TED into your home. So as Gina said, go and get the tickets. We've got some early bird. We also have VIP tickets that'll really give you a magical experience, sticking with that. Actually talking to the speakers in live chat, interacting with them and our sponsors, our whole team. There is a big team behind this. So it's going to be a great event. It's going to be kind of like this on steroids. So I think you'll really like to try it.
Well, speaking of our team, I would like to thank our producer today and for all of our TEDx TV shows, and that's Marcy Walsh. She's in the background, behind the scenes, making sure things are happening, keeping this train running on time, and making sure all the tech's working, and she's just such a valuable part of our team. I'd like to thank John Clunan for helping get the word out about TEDx Dupree Park and our TV show and the virtual event. He's our social media and website genius, behind the scenes, and to Randy Stukes, who is our speaker manager, and he's also, I call him our casting director for TEDx Dupree Park TV. So Randy has done a yeoman's job of getting our guests ready, scheduled, knowing what's going on, and just so valuable. Mike, any parting words you'd like to share with us today as we head off?
Go buy your tickets. I promise it will be something that will change your life. You will be entertained. You'll be delighted. You'll be educated. We're going to blow the doors off of Zoom December 5th and 6th.
Oh, yes, it will be Zoom. And to Steve's point about the VIP tickets, with the VIP tickets, you'll be able to go into a VIP room with the speakers and ask them your questions one-on-one. So I know that a lot of people will have questions for our speakers, especially after they hear them with their amazing, wonderful presentations. So with that, let's sign out, and you guys go have a great weekend and go seed some greatness. Thanks so much, everybody.